Silent Hill 2 is unlike any other game I've played, and it is highly regarded as one of the best video games and horror game of all time. And honestly, I agree. And since the new remake is coming out this year, I figured I'd talk about it. Even if it's not your thing, you cannot deny that the game and story is pretty good. And this is coming from someone who doesn't really like playing or watching horror games that much. I personally despise the Five Nights at Freddy's games, even though the lore is hilarious. I don't know, man. That's just how it be for me. I have not finished Resident Evil 2 Remake. I played like an hour in, but around that time, I went away on vacation and just haven't continued it since. But I might pick it up again soon. Who knows? And personally, I'm more of an action and story gamer, like God of War, the Arkham series, and the Transformer games. Like, that's my cup of tea. So how and why is Silent Hill 2 the exception? What makes it so good? And there are many factors that answer this question. But the main thing I would say is its subtlety and illusion. It's a game that really fucks with your perception and the way you think about the characters. Because as you play the game, you have no idea what the hell is going on until like the end of the game. So for those of you who have not played or even heard of this game, I will be talking about this game with spoilers. So this is your warning. I'm literally going to spoil the fuck out of this game. So if you've been meaning to play the game and haven't, come back to this video. If not, then let's go right in. Also, this game is not a continuation of the first Silent Hill game. They do share the same setting and location, but it's a standalone sequel. So here we go. So the game starts with James Sunderland, who just arrived in the town of Silent Hill in Maine. He receives a letter from his wife, Mary, saying she is waiting for James in their special place, which confuses James because she died from a terminal disease 3 years earlier. And the whole town is their quote-unquote special place. James doesn't believe it at first until he notes that it is indeed Mary's handwriting. Now that right there is a really good premise. Because you're discovering and figuring things out with the main character about the mystery of, if my wife died 3 years ago, then where the hell has she been since? And why did she send me the letter only now? Also, this shot right here is very important. So remember that for later. So when he leaves the town's observation deck, walking to Silent Hill, he enters her graveyard and encounters Angela, a teenage runaway searching for her mother. She warns him, saying that there is something wrong with the town, and that it's dangerous, but James ignores her, as he often does. But anyway, when he reaches the town, he notes that the town was very beautiful a few years ago, but now it's abandoned, rotting, and there's endless fog that is covering the whole town. By the way, the soundtrack for this game goes hard. I would play it, but I do not want to be flagged for copyright, but trust me, man, it's so good. So as he is walking, macabre humanoid creatures follow and try to attack James, and they're everywhere. And it's not that their appearance is low-key frightening, and the sounds they make are pretty spooky, but the fucking sound of them nearby, and the fact that your vision is legitimately limited, is anxiety-inducing. I would put the sound in this video, but again, copyright. So trust me, bro, when I say that it's terrifying. And the combat of this game kinda sucks. It's the weakest element in this game, because you could be literally hitting the attack button, but it either does not hit the creature, or they spit brown shit at you, or slither around, making them unhittable. But anyway, after following blood marks on the street, he discovers that the path to Rosewater Park is blocked. James decides to pass through an apartment complex to reach Rosewater. By the way, the hallway designs in this game are so good and so scary that it's a master of building tension, suspense, anxiety. Because there really is nothing but darkness in the hallway. Only sounds, which is honestly pretty insane. So after solving the trash compactor puzzle and dropping the key on the other side of the cage door, a young blonde girl on the other side kicks the key away from James, laughs, and runs away. Now this is the first time this little punk messes with you in this game. Like, she wants to smoke for real. Suddenly you hear a baby scream in the distance, which takes you to the other side of the apartment hall where behind the cage, you see a giant red figure standing there. And it's horrifying because it doesn't make a sound, it doesn't move, or anything. It just stares down at you like a predator observing its prey. And so you go to the door on the right. In that room, you see a bloody corpse slumped on a couch in front of a TV. James remarks on the corpse, but I'll get to that later. In that room, James discovers a secret passage to another hallway behind a clock, and here we see the giant figure, Pyramid Head, sexually assaulting two macabre mannequins as he hides in the closet and watches. Pyramid Head then notices James, but he shoots at Pyramid Head and it vanishes. James then finds the key the little girl kicked away from him, and he opens an apartment room door and finds a corpse inside of the fridge and meets Eddie in the same room vomiting in the bathroom toilet. He asks Eddie if he sees or knows what the Pyramid Head is, to which Eddie does not know. But throughout the whole conversation, Eddie seems off. Keeps repeating that he didn't do it, which we'll touch on later. James finds a small gap leading to another apartment complex, and there he finds Angela lying on the floor in front of a mirror contemplating suicide with a knife. He tries to talk her out of killing herself and persuades her to give him the knife so she can be safe, but she panics and leaves James. James tries to leave for the fire escape, but he's trapped with Pyramid Head inside. After surviving the encounter, James leaves the apartment building. As he is walking through the streets of Silent Hill, he finds the girl who is Laura, who kicked the key away from him chilling on a wall, not giving a single fuck to what is going on. James asks her what's up the letter she's holding, to which she claps back, "You didn't love Mary anyway." Like, damn, that was out of pocket as fuck, man. James, shocked by this, asked her how she knows Mary, but when the world needed her most, she vanishes. When James reaches the park, he meets a woman named Maria, who looks just like his deceased wife, except she's more arrogant and seductive, showing off more skin and sexual appeal. Not wanting to be alone, Mary decides to accompany James, to which he reluctantly lets her, and suspects Mary is at the Lakeview Hotel, where James and Mary stayed at. They both find a dead body holding a map of the entire section of Silent Hill, with Pete's Bolorama circled in red. James decides to go there as the road to the hotel seems to be destroyed. They arrive at Pete's Bolorama, and Maria tells James she's going to wait for him outside. Okay. Inside, James sees Eddie and Laura hiding, hearing them talking about Eddie running from the cops because he did something bad, and how Laura is also looking for Mary. Laura sees James and she runs away. James goes back outside. Maria claims to have seen Laura run away, and they both try to find Laura. They pass through Heaven's Night, a strip club and bar to which James finds alcohol in bottles, which reminds him that he helps him get away from the pain and being alone. After passing through Heaven's Night, they both see Laura enter Brookhaven Hospital, so they follow. They find a note saying that people falling sick takes them to the other side. We'll touch on this later. While exploring the hospital, Maria becomes sick and decides to rest in a room. Alone again, James goes to the roof and finds a diary on the floor. Before he gets back inside, he gets locked out and Pyramid Head pushes him out of the roof. And somehow, by God's holy grace, James survives the fall and finds Laura. James asked her how she knows Mary, to which she said that they met at this hospital, but she claims that she met Mary this past year. What? James doesn't believe her and tells her that they need to leave. Laura then tells James that they need to pick up a letter from Mary, so she leads James to her room, and once again fucks with James and locks him in that room, where these fucking things attack James. After defeating them, the hospital suddenly changes to a more bloody, disgusting place. James returns to the hospital room to find Maria missing. But after hearing cries in a hidden ground passage leading to the basement, he finds Maria. She yells at James, saying that he abandoned and does not care about her, but only cares about Mary. After she mentally takes a chill pill, they both continue to find Laura. After finding a note saying that the key of the town's history museum is underneath a statue back at Rosewater Park. Man, this game really makes you walk everywhere. Pyramid Head appears again and chases them for the basement. James makes it to the elevator, while Maria gets her shit wrecked by Pyramid Head and is dead as fuck. James, being like, "Damn, another bad one gone," finds a note telling him the truth can only be learned by going forward, and sees Laura running in the street again, and he leaves the hospital. Outside, he starts thinking about Maria's death, Laura being a crazy little turd blossom, and Mary's true feelings. To either wait for James or for her to take. He stops talking. He finds the key to the museum underneath the statue in Rosewater Park and enters the museum. In the museum, he finds pictures of the town's history and pictures of Pyramid Head with the creatures that attacked James in the hospital. He finds a door that takes him down a long staircase where he finds a huge hole on the floor. And of course, for the sake of plot and James having no common sense at all and being that dude, he jumps in the hole, not even thinking how deep it is. Okay. After seeing some bugs, he finds another hole and lets his intrusive thoughts win again, jumping into that hole again. Down there, James sees Eddie, who is next to a corpse holding a gun, but he looks pretty crazy, telling James that killing the person was no big deal, how they had it coming, and how they were making fun of him with their eyes. Okay. That's a big red flag, bro. He realizes that he is now walking around Toluca prison and in the cell block, sees creatures locked up, and sees a podium image of two pyramid heads hanging a man in the center, which, when activated, makes a painful sound when James puts the 3 tablets on the podium. The 3 tablets being the seductress, the oppressor, and the gluttonous pig. Okay. I see. James finds a diary saying that prisoners always try to justify their actions. After going down like 3 more holes and taking a random elevator down, he finds Maria alive in a cell and greets him with memories of Mary. Maria denies that she died, saying that they just got separated, and they talk about a videotape James and Mary made at the hotel. James tells Maria that he will free her, and he goes and looks for a way to do it. While he is walking, he hears Angela screaming, "Dad, no, stop." When he goes into the room, we see Angela being attacked by this thing. After he defeats the creature, Angela violently attacks its corpse, and she expresses her distrust towards him and men, saying that they are only after sex, just like her father did, and beat her to get it. Damn. She also tells James that she knows him and that he didn't want Mary around, and leaves. James goes back to the room Maria is at, and he finds her dead. He keeps on going and arrives at a cemetery filled with tombstones, and one of them saying, Maria. But he sees 3 open graves with 3 names that say, James, Eddie, and Angela. And even stranger is that his grave is a hole to which he goes down. He starts walking down this hallway, and the more he walks down, the more it gets all bloodier and moldier. He opens the door and finds Eddie, who has gone insane. James's dumbass asks Eddie if he has gone nuts, which causes Eddie to shoot James. James and Eddie fight, and holy shit, Eddie is a tank in this boss fight. During this boss fight, Eddie tells James that they're not so different, as the town calls both of them for the same reason. After James kills Eddie, he is shocked by what he did and questions if Mary even died 3 years ago, questioning his perception of his arrival to Silent Hill, and the letter he received from Mary becomes blank. He goes through the door and finds himself at a dock. He gets on a boat and rows himself to Lakeview Hotel. When he goes into the hotel, he finds a map of the whole place with the writing, "Waiting for you," written for one of the rooms. Laura scares James, and she explains that she is also there to find Mary, giving him the letter she was talking about earlier, showing that Mary wanted to adopt Laura. Laura remembers she had another letter from Mary, but she does not know where it is, so she runs away again. I swear, she runs away all the time. But anyway, he finds the videotape he and Mary made, and while going to the room that was marked on the map, we hear someone cry out, "James," and it's fucking horrifying. He sits down on the couch and plays it. On the tape, it shows James killing Mary by smothering her with a pillow. When the tape is done, he sits there silently, realizing the truth, and is sad. Laura comes in and asking if he found Mary. He tells her the truth, to which Laura gets furious and runs away. He is left there in silence, but he hears a voice on the TV that sounds just like Mary or Maria, telling him to find her. So James leaves the room, but the hotel suddenly turns all bloody and rotting. He enters a room where he finds Angela surrounded by fire, looking at a painting of 2 corpses. She confuses him with her mom. She asks for the knife back so she could kill herself, but James refuses and says that the room is hot as hell, to which she says, "For me, it's always like this," and walks into the flames and disappears. In the hotel lobby, he enters a room where 2 pyramid heads have Mary chained as she screams for help. They immediately both kill her. James realizes that Pyramid Head was created to punish him for his sins and guilt, and he fights them both. They stab themselves because their purpose has been fulfilled. James is walking down a long hallway as a conversation can be heard between James and Mary when she was alive. In the conversation, James brought Mary flowers, but Mary refuses and yells at James, saying that she is too disgusting to have flowers. And at the end of the conversation, Mary pleads for James to stay with her and to help her. At the top of the staircase, he is led to the roof where he sees Mary transform into this thing. She attacks James, and after using all of your bullets and getting bugged by a lot of bugs or bats, he defeats her and his final demon. He has his final conversation with Mary, where he admits that he hated her and wanting his life back. She forgives him and tells him to go on with his life. If you don't know, there are 6 endings to this game depending on the choices you make while playing this game. In Leave, James has one final meeting with Mary, reads her letter, which is really good and really sad, by the way. The voice actress was acting her ass off, and leaves the town with Laura, indicating that he can move on. In Water, James commits suicide by driving into Lake Toluca with Mary's body in the car, meaning that her corpse was in his trunk the entire time. See? I
told you this shot was important. The Maria ending sees Mary as the woman on the rooftop, who doesn't forgive James for killing her. James kills Mary and disregards her as a hallucination and leaves town with Maria, who is alive. But she coughs, which suggests that she will become sick like Mary, and the cycle will repeat. In Rebirth, James tries to resurrect Mary by collecting arcane objects collected throughout the game. And by the way, each Silent Hill game always has joke endings. So in Dog, James discovers that a dog has been controlling all the events of the game and falls on the floor, which is pretty hilarious. And in UFO, James is abducted by aliens with the help of the first Silent Hill game protagonist, Harry Mason.
Oh my god, that's
There is also a side story to Silent Hill 2 called Born from a Wish, where you take control of Maria right before she meets James at Rosewater Park. In this side story, after waking up in town with a gun and contemplating suicide, she decides to try to find someone. She eventually encounters a local mansion where she hears the voice of its owner, Ernest Baldwin. Ernest refuses to let Maria into the room he is in and will only talk to her through its closed door. After Maria completes tasks for him, Ernest warns her about James, whom he describes as a bad man. After Maria opens the door to Ernest's room and finds it empty, she leaves the mansion. At the end of this, Maria contemplates suicide once more, but ultimately chooses to find James. The side story concludes with a voiceover of James encountering Maria in the park, and her introducing herself to him, as it happens during the events of the main story. So there is a lot to this game than what it seems to be. Yeah, the story is great, but literally you could play the game again and again, and you will discover something new to this game. For example, discovering that the person you have been looking for throughout the whole game was right there in front of you from the beginning. The main thing that makes this game really stand out among the others is its subtlety and how your interpretation matters and how the game messes with you. Because yeah, on the surface level, it's the story of a widower looking for his dead wife, but no. The real reason why he's at Silent Hill is because he killed her at Lakeview Hotel and he mentally regressed those memories. That's why the town is so fucked, because the creatures and Pyramid Head are all based on his sins, his fears, his inner guilt and conflict. That's why after Maria's death, he starts thinking, is this Mary getting back on me? But he stops himself because he's in self-denial. When he sees the bottles and alcohol at Heaven's Night, it's James telling us that for him to feel less guilty over her death, he became an alcoholic. Near the end of the game at the hotel, you hear Mary yell, James, because he is getting closer to the truth of himself and what he did.
A theory that I think about since I played the whole game is that I genuinely believe that Mary died right before the game started, and James made up the whole 3 years time skip. Because if Mary's corpse was in James's car for the past 3 years, wouldn't the smell of a rotten corpse wake James up from his fantasy? And also, wouldn't relatives be mentioned or people or the police be looking for Mary? It's honestly kind of strange, but honestly, I kind of believe that James killed her at the hotel, then he snuck her body in his car, and after that he drove to the town's observation deck where he realizes what he has done. Just like in the game's beginning, he rubs his face in the bathroom and he takes a breath because that's him probably mentally repressing what he just did. And since he just mentally blocked what happened, he goes back to town, and that's when everything goes down. Because technically, for the time it would take for him to kill her, put her in the car and drive on the opposite side of town from the hotel to the observation deck, it would roughly mean that he kills her like 30 minutes before the start of the game, because the observation deck is on the opposite side of Toluca Lake from the hotel. And it is shown and proven that James is technically an unreliable protagonist. So, I don't know, it just makes sense in my head. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's really interesting to think about, you know?
The revelation of James finding out the truth while watching the tape was literally shown very subtly to us back in the apartment complex, where the corpse sitting down on the couch in front of the TV is James. That's when Pyramid Head appears for the first time, because he literally saw the truth but couldn't accept the truth, and that's why Pyramid Head wasn't there, and why it stalks James throughout the whole game, to punish James for not seeing the truth of his sins. Now you might be thinking, well, if it was all in his head, then how are Angela and Eddie in Silent Hill? Were they all in James's minds too? And honestly, it's left to your interpretation, but I believe that they are indeed real people. They do both represent two different aspects of James's mind. Angela embodies James's guilt, depression, and self-destruction. Like he literally keeps on jumping to big ass hills. Like, come on. He literally first encounters her in a graveyard, a place that embodies death and loss. But in my opinion, she was also called a Silent Hill because of her horrible past. Having an alcoholic father and her brother who abused and molested her. The creature she was screaming at was a literal physical manifestation of her father assaulting her, which is why it looks like that, and it's subtle, but really disturbing. The painting she was looking at in the fire was a painting of two male corpses, which indicate that the corpses are her father and brother, who she killed before killing a Silent Hill. Eddie embodies the murderous and deceiving aspects of James's mind, like how he encounters Eddie for the first time in the same room as the corpse in the fridge, denies any involvement, just like how James is under the illusion that he did not kill Mary. That subtly ties back to the diary saying that prisoners try to justify their actions. He literally says that he and James are in Silent Hill for the same reason. Before Silent Hill, Eddie was hated and picked on by how he looked, which is why he goes crazy and shoots a dog to death and shoots the owner's leg who bullied him. The podium that shows two pyramid heads hanging a person is Mary, because that's what James sees when he sees Mary again at the hotel. And that's 3 tablets and 3 tombstones are correlated. Angela is the unfortunate seductress of her father and brother. James is the oppressor that murdered Mary, and Eddie is the gluttonous pig because of his weight and appearance. It ultimately ties back to the note that James finds that says, people falling sick takes them to the other side. Because they're all mentally sick, and that's why they are at Silent Hill. So what exactly is Maria? Maria is a manifestation of James being desperate to see his wife again. That's why she's more sexually appealing, seductive, and moody. The first thing James asked her is, "Are you married?" To which she says, "I'm not your Mary." And James says, "So you are Mary?" To which she replies, "I can be if you want me to." That's the game literally winking at you saying, yeah, she's not real, bro. The only person who is not really affected by the town is Laura. That's why she just runs around the town and never mentions or interacts with any monsters, because she sees Silent Hill for what it truly is. Just a town with no fog or monsters, because she has no guilt or darkness. She's just an innocent kid. Yeah, she's annoying, but like, aren't all kids annoying? Since that remake is coming out this year, and with the gameplay teaser trailer, I have some thoughts. This is very nitpicky, I know, but for one, I do not like this shot because it shows too much emotion on James's face. See, the whole point about James is that throughout the whole game, he's literally out of it. Like the way that he talks and interacts with things, we get the sense that he's not mentally there. With the original shot of this scene, it's more effective in my opinion because you can't see his eyes and he looks off. But in the remake, and yeah, the graphics look amazing, he just looks sad all the time. And yeah, the character is sad. But in my humble opinion, him being out of it works better for me and for the narrative, in my opinion. Because if the viewer sees James constantly looking sad and miserable, we're gonna know something is wrong with him. But like in the original, since he looks out of it, it makes the twist more effective because for the majority of the game, we think something is wrong with the town. But it's mostly the secret behind what's wrong with James and how it correlates to the town. Another thing is it just me or does he look just like Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil? Maybe it's just the fact that they're both two blonde white guys, but they look too similar and the gameplay looks okay, I guess. Like it's something we're going to have to see when the game comes out. I really hope that the mystery and subtlety of the original is in this game. I know for damn sure that some creatures are going to look even more horrifying in the remake. But I mean, it's a horror game, they're supposed to be. I just hope that the game is as good or aims to be better than the original, since the original is so good, and how important its subtlety and illusion makes this game a true masterpiece.
So I'm going to give the original Silent Hill 2 a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you all in the next one.